End of the call, there will be some time, if you want to exchange contacts or keep chatting. So for those of you who don't know, so this call is being hosted by the Weidenfeld-Hoffmann Trust, which gives scholarships to about 30 students coming from emerging economies every year. But in addition to the scholarships, the scholars are provided with a leadership program that touches on ethical foundations, on entrepreneurial spirits, on practical training, and a lot of other soft skills that can help students in their, after they leave Oxford. This series of encounters we are organizing between cohorts, between different cohorts of the WHT scholars. So we'll usually have a past scholar present something that they're working on or they're passionate about. It's going to be 1 hour and maybe a few minutes. And today we have invited Tai to speak to us, to talk, to tell us about what she's been up to, mainly the coffee business that she's recently entered. So Tai graduated from the comparative government Mphil in Oxford in 2017. And before Oxford, she completed a BA in political science in Korea. Her academic curiosity expanded beyond politics to international developments. She went to, in the summer of 2014, she traveled to Kenya, where she interned at an NGO working in the field of indigenous rights and sustainable community development. In 2015, she was in Canberra, Australia, to participate in the Youth Summit, an initiative by Bayer Crop Science dedicated to sustainable agricultural solutions and food security. Fast forward to 2 years to now, Tai has recently opened a cafe and roastery in Ho Chi Minh City, also known as Saigon. And even though these things seem to be very distant from her studies, I can see a continuity in her interest in towards sustainable agricultural practices and community development. So I found this story to be particularly important for our most recent cohorts for maybe a couple of reasons. Firstly, because especially this year, many people will be called to pivot a lot or to start their careers in a situation where they didn't imagine they would have to start or to change career in these directions they didn't imagine. And secondly, because there's maybe a bit of a fear or prejudice against being an entrepreneur, against going into business, on your own. So I hope that Tai will be able to speak to us a bit about that, and most importantly, just tell us about how to make good coffee. So I'll keep you 1 more minute before passing the mic to her, just to make the Zoom experience a bit more interesting. I'll share my screen and we'll go on this virtual tour of 96B. I'll just give me a couple minutes, share my screen. Sorry, I'll do it well now. Good. Okay, so sorry, the introduction was a bit longer than intended, but please go ahead now, Thai.
Yeah, hi guys. So I'm Thai. I'm Vietnamese, and I was a Weidenfeld-Hoffmann scholar in from 2015 to 2017. So my OG degree was about politics, but pursuing a career in politics in a country like Vietnam is not the safest route, and therefore, after working in Hong Kong for a year, I decided that I cannot live like this anymore. Like I have to be my own boss. And therefore, what do you like? I like doing things myself, and I like coffee. So I thought that let's just match them together. And then when I was in Saigon, I also met a team of people who truly loved coffee. They don't love profit, which is very surprising. They love coffee more than profit. And it was like, okay, maybe I should collaborate with them. So actually the cafe, the 96B Cafe and Roastery in District 1 in Saigon is a collaboration between myself and my friend who is the main roaster there. And what we are doing is that right now we are trying to build a customer base that is very much geared towards very high quality coffee, i.e. specialty coffee. And we're also having an eye on working with farmers. We have already worked with a small farm, but they've gone bankrupt. We are trying to working with small farmers in order to process our own lot of coffee, in order to improve the cup quality of the coffee year after year. And my bigger long-term plan obviously would be to open the numerous cafes around Saigon and also in Hanoi, which is the capital of Vietnam, and also having our very own farm in order for us to grow our own coffee trees and also to process our own lots up to our very own standards. However, that is in the near future because coffee business, it takes at least 3 to 4 years in order to have a first harvest of coffee. So it's all in the future. Right now, I'm just taking it one day at a time, trying to build the customer base and giving the best coffee possible to our customer every day. So that's about me right now.
Thank you very much. So I thought, so does anyone already have questions, or or I can start? So so just to start the conversation, so you mentioned the situation of of Vietnamese farmers getting into debt more and more because the price of coffee is going down globally. Has that been the case also like this year, particularly like so this year? Yeah. So have you doing conversation? Have you spoken with some of these farmers recently, and what do they have? Like, are they themselves like thinking of changing, or what's the situation?
Yeah, right. So just to give you guys an overview, Vietnam is the second biggest exporter of coffee in the world. So I don't know if any of you guys coming from a coffee-dominated country, but just to give a quick history, Brazil and Colombia used to be the biggest coffee exporters in the world until into around 2000s, 1998 to about 2002, Vietnam just burst into the scene and drove down the coffee price. Not a good thing to do, but well, that's what happened. That was happened. So ever since the 2000s, the coffee price has been going down, even though if you go to a shop in Oxford or London, you see that the price of coffee is going up, but it's not because the coffee price is going down. So who is bearing all the burden? Obviously, it's the farmers. So most of coffee in the world is called commodity coffee. So commodity coffee is a coffee that is graded 70 points out of 100, according to Specialty Coffee Association standard. So that coffee is like mainly very low quality Robusta, Arabica. So if you find coffee in like Nescafe, coffee, I don't know, in Costa, those are commodity coffee. They are not very good, but they are very cheap. And the way you make money is to make selling a lot of bulk, right? So you make money in quantity. Whereas the specialty coffee, which is the direction that I am trying to go in, is coffee that is scored from 80 points out of 100 and up, and between 70 and 80 points is a long way. It's years. It's a lot of hard work. So you cannot make very good coffee at a cheaper price, and you cannot sell good coffee at cheap price. Right? So if you look at the state of the coffee in the world, there's commodity and specialty coffee. So Vietnam is mainly commodity coffee. About 97% coffee in Vietnam is commodity. It is sold to Nestle, I think even Louis Dreyfus, and also Olam. So they are the main importers of coffee from Vietnam. And then it will be sold to all the multinational companies in order to make like instant coffee. Or if you go to Italy, you get like actually espresso using Vietnamese beans somewhere. You must get like it's all the very cheap coffee that comes from Vietnam. So, but the problem is because Vietnamese farmers traditionally they have been competing on price, right? But you know the problem with the market is that prices are only going down, and then at the same time, the Vietnamese farmers do not necessarily receive a lot of help from the government. They also receive help from US aid, but for some reasons, US aid now have moved to Burma and Laos. They do not work with Vietnamese farmers anymore. So another layer of aid is taken off from the Vietnamese farmers. So basically, they're on their own. So what can they do? They can sell to traders at a low price, or they can work with higher quality coffee shops like us. But you know, to work with higher quality coffee shops like us, they need the know-how, they need the technique, they need the machine, all of which they don't have because we don't have a tradition of producing high quality coffee. And we also do not have the capital in order to create very good processing facilities. So if you look at, say, Kenya or Burundi, they have very big processing facilities. So if you buy a Kenyan coffee beans, they see that, okay, this lot of coffee beans come from this washing station. Why is that? Because there will be the government or the aid agency, there will be a big washing station for small micro farmers to bring their own lot there in order to process the coffee, which will always bring the price of the coffee down, to bring the price of processing down. Therefore, it gives you the competitive price in selling the coffee. Whereas in Vietnam, we do not have that at all. So when we produce our own coffee, we had to rent the processing station, right? So actually, the funny thing is, when we buy Ethiopian coffee, Kenyan coffee, the specialty kind is like 85 and up. It's cheaper than for us to process our own coffee. So that is the problem we are facing now, both in terms of commodity, which is the price keep going down, and specialty coffee, which is we do not have the market for it, and we also do not have the facility in order to make coffee better. And and also let's not forget the climate change, which is also making things much harder every year.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Karan. Would like to ask some video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the question is, given the context of COVID, have you seen this industry shift, and if so, how? Also, what innovation are you seeing business undertake to align the change to the market? Well, yeah, obviously, Vietnam, I don't know about other countries, but Vietnam went to lockdown for a month and a half, so that means that we didn't make a lot of money, and the demand was also going down. So this year has been a sad year for all of us, but at least we are doing some, at least Vietnam is opening up now, and so business is picking up. But the context of COVID, I think that is the most important thing, is at least in our context, which is specialty coffee, we never really paid, we as a small segment of market never really paid attention to delivery and selling coffee beans. And also having an online presence. And I think that COVID-19 really made businesses to realize that everything has to go digital now. And since last year, since July, I wanted to move our business very much online focused. That's why we put a lot of effort in making our website very pretty and also easy to use so people could order coffee bean online. And ordering coffee bean online is not a thing in Vietnam. Usually you go to a supermarket or you go to a cafe in order to grab the coffee bag. But now on our website, if you want you guys to check, it's 96b.co. You can see all the coffees we have in offer, the taste note, the farm, the processing method, and when we send you the coffee, it will tell you when the coffee was roasted. And I think that moving digital, making everything very seamless, and also finding the solution to customer. Again, shipping in Vietnam is a problem. Everything is a problem in Vietnam. But we also have to try in order to make customers to give customers the best possible solution, the fastest, the cheapest, in order to compete with other businesses. And also the innovation I'm seeing business undertake to align the changes to the market is that you always have to adapt to the situation and you have to reinvent yourself day by day. So not just us, but other cafes as well. For example, cold brew is big in Vietnam now, but you sell cold brew in a plastic cup, people are not going to buy because young people in Saigon, they are scared of plastic. So what do? You have to put coffee, your cold brew, in a glass container. And how do you compete with other cafes who are also putting cold brew in a glass containers? You have to make it look good. So it's a constant adaptation. You have to see what other people are doing and see what you can do in order to improve your product without sacrificing the quality and without increasing the price. So I think that you have to stay vigilant and not seeing everybody as a competitor, but as an inspiration. So you could learn from them. And it's very stressful, I must say, but it makes this job very fun because every day I see something new and I want to apply to our own business.
Thanks. So as a follow-up to that, and then before you answer, I will also let Kaganta ask a question. So as a follow-up to that, so is there any sort of like a trade association that you particularly feel like it's helpful to your business in your own region or your own the city? Kara, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for being with us. My question's a lot more simpler. It's just, why coffee? You made the jump from politics to coffee, and I'm just really curious to know what made you take that jump, because it's not a small one. Was it because you love coffee yourself, or it's the place you saw for most significant change in your country?
Right. Yeah, I wish that my ambition was that lofty, but actually because I love coffee. But actually because, as I said, I worked in Hong Kong for a year for capitalism. I just got sick of making rich people richer. Let's just be honest. And I was like, okay, I have all these skill sets, and I just do not see myself going up the ladder, the corporate ladder, because it's not for me, because you have to keep playing some sort of game that I do not want to follow the rules. So I guess that you just have to be your own boss, especially with my temperament. I think that Alexandra knows what my temperament is. But there's that. And also, but in terms of coffee, I think that Vietnam, because it is a very fast growing consumer industry, and coffee has always been a very big part of Vietnamese culture. It gives people not just a place in order to get your caffeine fix in order to get things done, but it's more like a gathering, a place for people to go together, to share, to make friends, to be alone. And it's a lot, I think it's a very, very important part of the cultural context in Vietnam, and I wanted to be a part of that. At the same time, when I went to see all the farmers and their conditions, it could be better. And there's nothing sadder than looking at all these farmers working very hard, picking coffee by hand, and every year they have to be worried like whether we can sell this lot, how much it is going to be sold for. And I just wanted to make some sort of difference, even if just one household, we'll still try, you know, to make a concrete difference, because I guess I was tired of not knowing where my effort was going to.
Thank you. I'll take two questions that are related from Bivishika and William. I think they are very related. Would you like to go ahead, Bivishika, first?
Sure. No,
I'll let like speak the question also. So that's, yeah.
Okay, so my question, I think, is mostly two parts. I asked, how has the presence of multinational traders in Vietnam impacted small household coffee farmers? How much do small household coffee farmers depend on coffee farming for their livelihood, and what are their biggest challenges?
Yeah, so I cannot speak on behalf of all the farmers. I can only speak on behalf of the farmers I've met. So the multinational traders, again, the pricing, I think the pricing is always the problem, because you know the problem with commodity, agricultural commodities, that when you have a lot, you sell it for cheap, and you don't have any, it is expensive. And that is the problem Vietnamese farmers, not just in coffee, but also in rice, in oil, in everything has been facing. And the problem with Vietnam is that the government does not have a set price, does not have a subsidy, or does not have any kind of forecast for people to benchmark, so they can, how much they should produce and whether they should move into other areas. So the multinational traders impact small household coffee farmers. I mean, if I were a farmer, or at least if I were one of the farmers I met, I'm like, we don't like them, but what can we do without them, right? Because who else would you sell the coffee to? Again, Vietnam is mainly a coffee exporter. We use a lot of coffee within the community, within the country, but exporting is still a very big part of the business and a very big part of GDP. So that is what I think. And how much do the small household farmers depend on? So again, the farmers I met, they will have coffee farming in one season. In other seasons, they will have other small subsistence. I think the farmers I met, they have vegetable and also fruit. But you know, does it make a huge difference in their life? I doubt that very much. And the biggest challenge they face, I think, not just in Vietnam, but also in every other country, from Colombia to Thailand, from Brazil to Ethiopia, is climate change. And I cannot stress this enough, because the problem with coffee is that in order to have good coffee, you need constant humidity, you need you need predictable weather, you need to know when the rain will fall, you need to know whether the sun will come out tomorrow, and the humidity in the air will stay constant at a 25 to 50% level. And the farmers nowadays, again, around the world, cannot predict it anymore. And along with the rising climate is a rising pest. And you know, I don't know about coffee leaf rust, but coffee leaf rust is basically like HIV for coffee plants. When a plant gets it, the whole plantation is gone. And that is one of the reasons why most coffee was killed off in the 19th century in Asia, because of coffee leaf rust. And that marks the rise of Robusta coffee, which is the lower quality, but it's resistant to the rust. So that means that we are also facing the threat of very good coffee. So like we're talking heirlooms, Ethiopian heirlooms, we're talking bourbon, Typica, they're very much susceptible to pests, which is thriving in a warmer climate. So there are a lot of challenges that they're facing.
Yeah, so I don't know if you could address now the question by William. So when it comes to the 4-year-long projects you are working on of developing this specialty coffee, and you are partially competing against these multinationals, so how do you think to keep the prices down while keeping the quality up?
Yeah, no, I think that it's always you have to balance, right? Vietnam has more than 100 million people. Saigon in and of itself has 15 million people. we don't need to sell to 15 million people in Saigon. We only need about 15,000, even 1,500. With the scale of the current business, it will be okay. So I'm trying to say is that every kind of niche market has its own segment, and what we can do is, to really satisfy that type of target customers. So when you create a nice video, you see a picture, it is geared very much toward a certain kind of customers that we have in mind, which is somebody who appreciates good coffee, who cares about good and fresh coffee, and who likes a modern, clean environment where you can sit on a real table, where you can work, where there's good Wi-Fi, there's good music, instead of just sitting on the stool on the street, right? And also that kind of customer have the money to pay, and also have the ability to appreciate the coffee. So we are not trying to compete with the multinational traders at all. We are just trying to be better, to give better service, and to give better coffee towards our targeted customers. And how do we ensure convenient price without sacrificing the quality? We don't sacrifice the quality. And we charge fairly for the quality we are giving you. So our coffee, if you look at it, it is quite expensive by Vietnamese standard, but I think it's a fair price in order to pay fairly to the farmers and to pay fairly to our staff at the cafe. So I don't want to toot my own horn, but we pay all our staff full fee during the lockdown. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sagar?
Yeah. Hi. So my question is more kind of like, because like Nepal and India both of these countries, they came from this war, internal war, civil war, and I would say even more of this war time, So my question is, now the Vietnam is also building on, Nepal is also building on. I'm quite optimistic about the future of both of these countries. But at the meantime, my question is, like, I also opened up a company, but I'm in the closing phase. So it's so hard to run a business from ethical point of view. What I mean is, like, there are a lot of corruptions you need to deal with the government. So, I mean, in terms of ethical point of view, while dealing with the governments, what are your challenges? How is the environment in Vietnam? Is it progressing? Or how hopeful are you regarding the future and all these things? So yeah, this is my question.
So how to deal with people who do not want you to do business?
Yeah, that is one question. And the next question is regarding the government. How supportive is your government? Sometimes, like, you need to deal with the corruptions. Sometimes you need to do the unethical works, which you are not allowed to. Sometimes this happens. So that is the reason why sometimes you need to choose between whether you want to go with ethics or with the business. So you can't put ethics in the business. So I'm just, my question is, how do you put ethics into your business? How do you align both of these sectors, which are, I would say, different in Vietnam? I don't know about Vietnam, but in Nepal, either you need to be ethical or either you need to be a businessman. You can't be both at the same time. So it's quite hard. Right. So how are you dealing with this?
Yeah, so just to give you guys an anecdote, last week we have a bunch of policemen coming in telling us that our fire alarm system is not good enough. And obviously we had to pay them. Only 500,000 Vietnam dong, which is $25. And I thought to myself, how sad is it for you to sell your integrity for $25? And what can I say? I think that ethics is, you cannot sell your ethics. That's all I can say. I mean, I guess that I am very absolutist person. I think that you have to be ethical. You have to be moral. Your moral has to be up to your standard. And I do not want to lie. I do not want to do bad things in the world. And I think that is just what I have to tell my staff every day. I have to remind myself every day, because you want to cut corners in business, and a lot of people in this environment does not want you to compete fairly and do not want you to work in a righteous way. But I guess that you cannot control the actions of other people. You can only control how you react to that. And at the end of the day, if you look back at yourself and like, okay, I didn't sell my morals for $25, for $25,000, $25 million. I think it's just something that is non-negotiable and uncompromising. But of course, I understand that in the environment that Vietnam or India or Nepal, bribe is a part of the package. Working around the law is also part of the package. So everything, before you do anything, I think you just have to take a step back and think, whatever I'm doing, am I harming anybody? Am I harming the business? Am I harming my own morals and ethical standards? And if the answer is yes, I don't think that anything is worth it. But then it's just me.
Prerna? And then I see Melissa and Sarani after. But Prerna, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, hi Ty. I have two questions, one from a social perspective and one from a commercial perspective. Do you have recognized trade body? I think Temi did ask you this, but is organization like Fair Trade recognized and appreciated in Vietnam in particular? If yes, to what extent? If no, what have been your challenges to work fairly in the context that you are in? And on the commercial side, I have a question for you. Since technology adoption has not been really good in Vietnam, like you earlier mentioned, what were the initiatives you did to make your online coffee selling? How did you reach out basically to customers to say that you are selling online, and how did, more importantly, you get that buy-in? Because from what I understand, it's a cultural change. It's not just the willingness to buy. So thank you.
Yeah, so the first thing is fair trade recognized in Vietnam? No. Is the Alliance of Rainforest? No. I mean, we have those. If you want, honestly, you can pay for that. If you want, you can have that on your packaging. But I don't think that the majority of customers care about that. That is why, at least in my business, again, my business is small. It's not big yet. So I cannot speak about the whole industry. But our company and also a few other very much respected specialty company, they build huge transparency between the farmers and the customers. So we take pictures of farmers, have their testimonies, and also invite them to actually launch their coffee at the cafe. And obviously, if the farmers are not happy, they're not going to be there with us. And I think that it just, again, the constant self-checks and balance. And also how you need radical transparency with your farmers and also with your customers in order to ensure that when people buy in our products, they know that they buy this high price product because it has high quality and because the farmers are happy with the price we are paying. How do we make people buy into our products? Again, because it's a niche market, you cannot use the mass approach, right? You have to be very, very, very attentive to every single 100-gram bag of coffee you sell. So one thing that I learned from my past job in Hong Kong is that speed, accuracy, and attention to detail always matter, no matter what you buy, no matter what service you are trying to provide. And if one customer has a good experience with you, they might as well tell 3 to 5 to 10 other customers. Do we do advertisement? We don't. We actually do not do advertisement. We do not pay for reviews. We do not tell influencers to come to our cafe. They just come, and the people who appreciate coffee, they just come. And they always have the same comments about our cafe, which is first, it's very fast, or the coffee is shipped within 10 minutes of the order being received. I want to ensure that, like, the moment you get an order, you have to call the customer, you have to ask them most questions, you have to send it right away. You'll find them all the solution in order to make their life easier, and all the hard work we have to do it in advance for them. So just give them the best experience possible. When they go to our cafe, they see that it's clean, there's no trace of dust, or the coffee is made with care, and all the baristas are not here to show off their skill, but all the baristas are there in order to give the customer the best experience possible. And so what we've been doing is that we are not advertising, we are not giving discounts, we are not telling people to come, we're not saying like, hey, if you come and write a review, we'll give a free coffee. We have received a lot of requests to do that, but we always decline because we want to give real quality and with people with real feedback. So that is what we have been doing. Is this the fastest way towards publicity, towards popularity? Not really, but I think that it is the most stable, safest, and most sustainable way to run the business. And I think the most important thing is that it holds you accountable. If something is wrong, it is your fault and you have to change it.
Alexandra? You are, okay.
Yeah, okay. Hello, Thai. It's very nice to see you, and many congratulations. It's really impressive what we're doing. I wanted to know, was listening to you, that, well, when you were with us, I don't think you could have held forth about coffee like this. So how did you train to know so much? I'm very interested by that, not least because, we run our business challenge, and I want to ask you a second question about that. But just tell me first about how you train, because you clearly know everything there is to know about coffee.
No, I don't. But I think that when you are very much interested, at least for me, I try to know everything. I love hamsters. I know everything there is to know about hamsters, and I love coffee, and I think it's just normal that I should know everything about coffee. So it first started. So in terms of coffee, you want to know the history, the variety, and most importantly, the taste of the coffee. So that is, I think, is that the task for coffee lovers. And people who do coffee business, need to know how to make coffee, need to know and they understand the chemistry of roasting coffee. And so I just have that kind of idea in mind. Okay, what do I need to know? So taste, I have to drink a lot of coffee. I actually have a book that I write out all the coffee I taste, or taste note how I make it. Do I taste nectarine today, and do I taste like green apples? Why does this coffee turn from green apple to red apples the next day? You have to know, because that is how you change your taste, which nobody can teach you actually. And then for history of coffee, if you Google it, if you read books, it's there. I mean, coffee is the second most commonly traded commodity in the world after oil. So there's a lot of information there is to know about coffee, as long as you actually look for it. And variety of coffee, again, you have to read. You have to read on the history of coffee. You have to read on the history of colonialism to understand the coffee. You have to read biology, how to grow coffee, etc. To know it. And obviously, nothing can. You also have to go into the field. You have to talk to farmers, to understand what the problem is. You have to look at different kind of coffee trees, and okay, so that is a typical, okay, that is a bourbon, to know, you have to differentiate. So I think it's just, you have to be truly, really interested. And I think that's why I went to coffee, because no matter how much of work ethics I had in my last job in Hong Kong, I'll never be as interested. And when you learn something new every day, it never feels like work. I mean, it sounds like cliche, but it's true. And in terms of making coffee and roasting coffee, that is where you have to look for the right people to teach you. Specialty coffee in Vietnam is a very young industry, and therefore we have a lot of people who do not know anything but claim that they do. So you have to find people with the right qualification and the right kind of ethical standards in order to work with them and to learn with them. And you cannot just take whatever that they tell you as a gospel. You have to cross-check, you have to double-check, triple-check. Okay, you are saying that, but that guy on the internet who has 2 books about coffee said something else. And that is where you learn. And again, you just have to be open-minded and continuously learn. Yeah.
Did you have some backers though? Because this must all have taken time. So how did you afford to train yourself? Because it's one of the problems we have with the ideas that people come up with our business challenge is how do you fund yourself?
Well, I guess you just have to sleep less, honestly, because when I worked again in Hong Kong, I worked 10 to 12 hours a day. How do I make coffee? I have to wake up at 5 a.m. in order to make coffee, taste the coffee, record the coffee, and then catch the bus at 7 a.m. There's no other way. You just have to make the time for you to do what you like. Also, do I like to read a book that is 1,000 pages about how to grow coffee? No, I don't. I much rather hang out with my friends. But I have to set aside time, right? 1 hour a day. You have to write it. You have to record it. You have to put on Excel. You have to tell people about it. You have to continuously reread it in order to remember it. So it's just, you just have to make the time.
So are you saying that for those that are starting, we've got quite a lot of people today who are on the just beginning, and we hope they're going to come up with things for the business challenge that we run. So are you saying basically you need not to sleep, to have a big passion, and to just believe in it? Is that what's your prescription?
Well, I don't really believe in a thing called work-life balance. I think that, again, I'm a very intense person. So when I'm really into something, I will try to get it done and try to get as much information as possible. I can rest and I can chill after that. Now that I'm entering my 29 years old, I don't think that my body can deal with that anymore. But at least that's what I did. So for those who have the youth, I think that you should try to push yourself harder and harder, and knowing that no matter what you know, it's really nothing in the sea of knowledge. And I think that most importantly, though, that you have to be excited about what you're doing. I feel like giving up every day at the end of the day. Honestly, I don't want to be dramatic, but running a business remotely is hard. But the next day, you have to renew your optimism and hope, and today you're better day. And today you'll make somebody's life easier and better by selling a good cup of coffee. It's just constant renewed optimism and sense of purpose. I think it's very important in whatever you do.
Thank you. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa, would you like to ask your question?
Yes. Well, hello, I am from Colombia. And what you said before, it's something that makes me think a lot. It's not only related to coffee, but to every cup, you know, like with globalization, like to make it like for people, well, like the prices, and because of the competition, it's really hard to make the business work and to make like the conditions of farmers improve. And it's a problem with like worldwide. As a politician, have you ever think like a way to like, you know, maybe make an agreement or an alliance, like, you know, like, okay, so you don't put your price down, I won't put it down either, and like the market has to get adapted to it. Like, have you ever think about it like a way you see it as viable, or you think like with globalization we cannot do that?
Well, I'm not very optimistic person. I call myself a realist. And if everybody could get along and agree to everything, we wouldn't be in this mess. So obviously, in my mind, I have a lot of things that if people just get along, if people just could agree on something, and if people could just agree to do good instead of trying to make as much money as possible, life is so much easier. So I cannot talk about coffee price on a global level, but at least on a community level, what I'm seeing is that I do not see other specialty coffees as our competitors. Again, they're our inspiration. And every time somebody drink a quote-unquote overpriced cup of coffee, they are drinking a good quality, high quality coffee for everybody in the industry. So that is what we want to foster, the business sense, and that's what I will try to work on when I manage to get back in Vietnam. Right now I'm still stuck in Hong Kong, but we want to work together with other cafe owners in order to really be very, very transparent about our process, about why we charge the coffee the way we do, and how much money the farmers are receiving. Because I get a lot of inspiration from microbrewery in Vietnam. If you don't know, I love beer. I drink a lot of beer as well. And the thing about microbrewery in Vietnam is that it is a very close-knit community. And they think that every time somebody drink a beer from that brewery, they're also drinking the beer from our brewery. Because it's not a house, you try to raise the standard of tasting beer in the industry. And that means that you're just making more and more people try to appreciate good beer. And that is what at least I want to foster in the cafe community in Saigon, that we are not competing against each other. We're trying to work together in order to make people appreciate coffee more.
Thank you very much. Sarani, are you here?
Hi, yeah, sure. So firstly, I love your attitude towards kind of bringing the coffee and the cafe community together. It's super interesting. I wish more young entrepreneurs had the same kind of mindset. But actually, I was going to ask you a more business-oriented question as well. I was interested in how you said, Vietnamese coffee majority is commodity coffee. So I was just thinking now, I'm from Sri Lanka, and we don't have a huge coffee culture. It's a tea culture. But definitely, like, Vietnamese coffee is still seen as a treat, almost like a little bit more luxurious, better quality than ours, and more accessible than South American coffees. So I was wondering whether you're interested in, like, eventually, in the future, moving to the region and taking that, putting Vietnamese coffee on the map in that regional aspect, because I think there's a lot of scope, there as well. Just interested in your thoughts.
I don't know if you know this, but Sri Lanka was actually the OG place.
Yeah, but plague and things like that. So,
but then the coffee leaf rust just kind of ruined you guys. Anyway, so do we want to expand? Sure, we do, but I do not. Just from an ethical point of view, I think that farmers in each country, they should have their own destiny, and the entrepreneurs within that country should seize their own opportunities. So I'm very much averted to the idea that, okay, we are trying to sell Vietnamese coffee at a cheaper price in order to bring down the businesses of other farmers in other countries, or we want to bring down the businesses of other farmers in other regions in Vietnam. Again, we're just focused on giving the best coffee possible to our customers. It may sound a bit ridiculous, but that is all that we focus on right now. We want to expand, not because we want to dominate the market. I think that monopoly is ridiculous, and it gives consumers much fewer choices, and it just make life much less interesting. So I do not support big business. I support small businesses. I want people to be able to go to different cafes for different moods. Each weekend, you can go to a different place in order to experience a different atmosphere. So again, we want to expand, but we want to bring, just because we want, again, to consume more coffee, to buy more coffee from our farmers, in order to spread the message that good coffee is accessible and could be available to everybody if they really want to open their mind to good coffee. But again, I am not some kind of like dominating the market kind of person, no.
Samuel, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thanks for speaking. I guess my question is also a bit more business related. And what's really fascinating for me is, you have all these global conglomerates, such as Starbucks, trying to expand internationally. And one of the markets they've really struggled in is Vietnam. And I'm quite curious what your take is on this. It seems like a general hypothesis is that Starbucks has never tailored their offerings to the local market. And also, is it because their costs are higher, which is quite confusing because they're a large conglomerate, so they could command, a significant price reduction locally. So I'm just kind of curious to see your take on this.
Yeah, right. So I think you have to look at the customers. A lot of people think that, a lot of again, my old job in Hong Kong, all the conglomerates in some others want to enter Vietnam, but they think, oh, it's like a growing country and everybody is spending so much money. But why is it so hard? It's so hard because Vietnamese people are very peculiar in terms of their taste. You know, it's just not just Starbucks, you know, KFC, who's that? McDonald's, they are struggling. They're struggling. Why? Because you cannot compete in terms of taste when it comes to food in Vietnam. You cannot compete in terms of price in Vietnam, and you cannot compete in terms of ambience in Vietnam. So say Starbucks, for example, right? Again, it is very homogeneous kind of feel, like wooden table, tall glass, windows. We have about 5 million cafes like that in Vietnam at a much cheaper price, and serve coffee not in a plastic cup. So why should we go there? Nobody is going to go to Starbucks. People only go to Starbucks when they are at the airport, when they have nowhere else to go. But I don't think that Starbucks can build a loyal customer base and also people telling each other to go there, because we already have similar to Starbucks but better. We also have other kinds of coffee with better taste than Starbucks and cheaper. So that's the problem. And again, Vietnam does not have the culture of like, okay, I'm just grabbing a coffee and I'm going to work right now. No, Vietnam is like, okay, I wake up at 7 a.m. No, we wake up at 5 a.m. We wake up at 5 a.m. We hang around. We have at 6 a.m. for breakfast. At 7 a.m. you call your bro, like, do you want to hang? And then they will hang out at a coffee shop in the corner of the street until 9 a.m. And then the guy will stand up like, okay, I have to go to work, but I see you at 11 a.m. That is the kind of culture that we have here. And Starbucks is not tailored to that. So it's a very different, and actually that's our problem with our cafe as well. Our cafe is not like a fun cafe in the corner where people can just hang. It's a very much different kind of customers. There is a different kind of customer that appreciate good coffee and appreciate good design. Good design they might have at Starbucks, but I'm sure that our coffee is better than Starbucks. So just say the culture is different, and we already have a lot of other options that are better than Starbucks.
Awesome. And one follow-up question: what are your personal recommendations for people who are new to Oxford? Anything? Any good coffee? Any good Vietnamese coffee spots?
Yeah. What was that? The missing bean? I think the missing bean is the best. And actually, the missing bean that have coffee from Thailand. So the coffee from Thailand, they got their is from a place called Beanspire. Beanspire is owned by a PhD guy at Mphil College, who is also my friend. So that's really good. So again, if you look at Thailand, Vietnam, we are very much new to the specialty coffee game, but Thailand is already very much ahead of Vietnam in terms of like exporting coffee, in terms of like making people feel more familiar to Thai coffee. So if you are interested, I think you could still go to that roastery, the missing bean, and also that is where you can try very much different coffee from around the world, and it's always fun.
Thank you very much. We have maybe another 5 minutes. So I'll ask a question while waiting for like the last round or the last question if any comes up. So now coming back to, let's say, Vietnam. So you've been now in Hong Kong basically towards the COVID lockdown. But have you, I imagine you've been able to like speak with other Vietnamese. What has been their reaction to like your, let's say, passion or like your passion project to make good specialty coffee in Vietnam? Do you receive a lot of support from like from Vietnamese?
For the Vietnamese people or Vietnamese government?
From the people, as in the people who could like say invest or the potential like big customers that you could.
Yeah, we have most of our customers are supportive of the good quality coffee, but at the same time it's a very, 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 very small proportion of the population that we have in Vietnam. Right now, again, it is a very nascent business. So some other businesses like Hummingbird Coffee in Saigon or the Scholars, they are really trying to push the farm to cup concept to other people. So again, it's a team effort. We'll try to collaborate with some of them next year in order to produce our lot. It didn't work out this year because of COVID-19 and so other issues. We want to work on that. We also want to work with World Coffee Research in order to see whether if we have a farm and we can grow different kind of coffees that are resistant to rust, resistant to pests, and also higher cup quality. But again, I don't think that you will hear from me in 4 years in terms of the result of this, because again, coffee takes forever to grow, and usually the first harvest is not very good. But there's that. Also, we want to learn from, again, Thailand. We want to learn from other markets, Thailand, Burma, and also Laos. They are actually growing their own coffee and processing coffee in a very interesting way. And even if we could learn a different way of processing and how to apply in our markets, also be a plus point. So yeah, I think as that right now is very much the effort of very small businesses like us that are trying to spread the message further. But over time, I hope that we get bigger, because actually specialty coffee as an industry only started around like I think 2002, 2004. With some cafes in London and also in Melbourne. That is where it was started, and now it is becoming a very much bigger business. I know you know Blue Water, but Blue Water was bought for $750 million. So the opportunity is there. We just have to go with the flow and try to grab the opportunity we see, but at the same time try to keep our ethical standards in check.
Thank you. We'll take one last question from Atherton.
Hey, Tai, thank you so much for your presentation. And you've got me thinking and realizing a lot about the importance of keeping one eye on what's happening in the business today and the other eye on what's going to happen in the future. You speak about the coffee that you're going to be growing, and that's just some time into the future. And it's got me wondering what your thoughts are on how one can build a company that outlives its founders, in terms of building companies that are sustainable and will be centuries old with time.
Well, I had an answer. I've been be stressed every day, my friend. But I think that every company, they should have their own philosophy. Again, if you go to our website, you'll see the philosophy about coffee, and that is what you have to live with day by day. Again, it's some of the uncompromising ethics that you cannot, that you always have to follow by. And also, so that's one thing in order to remain who you are. And the second thing, in order to build a sustainable coffee business, or a sustainable business for that matter, I think as a customer, you always have to pay attention to customer. No matter how many customers you have, you may have one customer, you have 1 million, they have to be treated the same, with the same kind of attention and detail. How do you treat people with the same kind of attention, detail, and care? You respond to their email, you respond to their text, you always say thank you, you always say thank you for your patience, thank you for waiting. And I think it's very important, because it's not just your company on the line, also your own personal branding on the line. So if your business fails, which is the case, 60% of the business fail, so over 65% of the F&B businesses fail within the first 3 years, your personal branding will remain, and that is when at least you have the foundation to start again. I think that you just, again, have continuously renewed your sense of optimism and never ever compromise your standard for speed, for price, or for anything.
Thank you so much, Tai. I think Samuel, is that your hands up from before, or you have a new? Okay, so that's
Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. Okay, thank you so much, Tai, for making yourself available today. I know it's very late right now in I think 11 p.m. in Hong Kong. So yeah, I really appreciate that, and thank you everyone else for also joining and interacting and being curious about coffee, about Vietnam, about the Weidenfeld-Hoffmann Trust. So we'll be back again with this sort of like a Zoom webinar next Tuesday to talk about transitional justice in peace building with another one of our scholars. So I hope to see as many of you there as possible. In the meanwhile, have a good afternoon, or good evening, or good night, depending on where you are.